it too hard. She left me here with this guitar. You could try stealing my heart, it's already gone. You could tell something is wrong, just leave me alone. I don't even know where to start.
Yo, what is good, everybody? Today we're gonna be watching friendships that are become villains in phase 4 or 5. I don't know what phase we're in the Marvel universe, but it's in the next phase, so let's get straight to it.
He's my friend.
Phase 4.
The MCU's future promises monumental changes, and we could see some of our favorite friendships and team-ups completely fall apart. That's right. Will your favorite pairings survive Phase 4 and 5? Throughout the MCU so far, the franchise has done a great job building up these great relationships. But it might be time to shake things up a bit and explore a slightly different dynamic. Will Spider-Man's best friend become his greatest enemy? Will Rocket and Groot go their separate ways? All that and more coming your way right now. Has there been a more honest, more genuine friendship in the MCU than Peter Parker and Ned Leeds? I don't think so. These two are totally BFFs who have each other's back no matter what. Even though Peter has all the powers, it's Ned who likes to operate as the classic man in the chair, assisting Peter whenever he needs help. But are these two headed toward disaster? Let's take a look at some facts here. For one, when it was announced that Ned would be Peter's best friend in high school, there were some eyebrows raised. Obviously, he's replacing the usual best friend role that is Harry Osborn, and seems to be more in line with the Ultimate Marvel Comics Ganke Lee. Ned Leeds, on the other hand, has an interesting comic history, with some versions of him even becoming the classic Spidey villain, the Hobgoblin. Could our precious Ned be heading straight to the Halloween Spirit Store to pick up a goblin mask and finally enroll in those glider lessons from Groupon? Maybe. It doesn't necessarily fit for the character as of now, but who knows?
Yeah.
It's clear Ned is going to be different in the third Spider-Man movie anyway, with the actor playing Ned, Jacob Batalon, showing off an impressive new lean physique for the movie. Could this be leading to darker things? Could we see Ned jealous of Peter and try to achieve his own level of strength, which leads him to some fancy new goblin serum? I'm not ruling anything out.
Don't drink fountain water, you idiot. That's disgusting.
In 2014, the world was introduced to perhaps the greatest pairing since peanut butter and jelly, Rocket and Groot. You wouldn't think that a genetically enhanced raccoon and a giant tree that sounds like Vin Diesel would have much in common, but the partnership between the two was epic. It's like they were made for each other, complementing each other's weaknesses and proving there wasn't a problem they couldn't overcome together. Of course, things got tricky when Groot sacrificed himself only to be reborn into Baby Groot, who then grew into angsty Teen Groot, and everything seemed to be getting back to normal. Teen Groot was poised to become adult Groot again, and everything would go back to the way things were. But then, that whole pesky Thanos thing happened. The snap wiped out Groot and the rest of the Guardians, leaving Rocket alone with Nebula for 5 whole years. Now that Groot's back, I fear their dynamic might be different. It seems like Rocket always had Groot while they were making their way around the galaxy, but now, even though no time has passed for Groot, Rocket has experienced a lot on his own. He may have reverted back to his loner existence and not relying on anyone but himself. What's their relationship going to be like now? Will Groot be jealous of the relationship Rocket has formed with Nebula? Will Rocket be a little wary to open himself up again to Groot? These are questions we need answers to. A real highlight in the Captain Marvel movie was seeing Carol's relationship with a younger Nick Fury. Our favorite one-eyed spy was a lot more optimistic and trusting toward the world back in the 90s as he was working his way up in S.H.I.E.L.D. But things are drastically different now. Although Captain Marvel is now more optimistic and more heroic, Fury is a little more cautious and protective and generally distrusting of everyone. Hey, you let a Flurkin scratch her eye out once and it totally changes you. So I think their friendship is in serious trouble. I don't think Carol will recognize the Fury she meets again in the future, and Fury's general uneasiness over alien invaders is probably just continuing to grow thanks to the formation of S.W.O.R.D. I could see a situation where Fury wants Carol to fight with them and represent Earth, while Carol wants to protect the entire galaxy, putting them at odds with one another. Oh no! How are we ever going to learn more weird things about Fury, like how he can't eat toast when it's cut diagonally? This friendship is going to be one of the most interesting to see because so much time has passed. Alright, say you have two good friends, then one of them decides that there are too many sorcerers in the world, and then the other one starts going by Sorcerer Supreme. Yeah, that's not great for any friendship. Like, if two friends disagreed on whether pineapple goes on pizza, that's tough but wouldn't break the friendship. That other thing? Yeah, definitely a huge hurdle. Dr. Stephen Strange was mentored a lot by Baron Mordo, with Mordo even being pivotal in the final fight against Caecilius, but then the two had a falling out. Dr. Strange probably said, you know what, I'm gonna give this guy some space for a bit, maybe he'll come around. But then Mordo went and murdered Benjamin Bratt, so that's a bummer. I don't see this friendship repairing in the MCU's future. Can Mordo still have some good in him? Or are we setting him up to be the ultimate villain of the eventual Doctor Strange 3? My money's on the latter. We don't know if Mordo will have much of an impact on Doctor Strange's sequel, The Multiverse of Madness, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mordo popped up in a mid-credit scene to remind people he's still here and still pretty upset at Doctor Strange. Avengers Infinity War gave us perhaps the best pairing of Chris's that we've ever seen in the MCU. It was Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth, as Peter Quill and Thor. The two had electric chemistry together, and seeing Quill totally feel uncomfortable and out of his element as he tried to keep up with the godly Thor, who Drax said was a real man, was a highlight. This continued in Avengers Endgame, where the ending saw Thor hitching a ride with the Guardians of the Galaxy off to parts unknown, and presumably to help look for Gamora. Now, we know Peter Quill is definitely going to be in Thor Love and Thunder, and it's probably only a matter of time until the other Guardians are announced as well, but I think Peter will have enough of Thor by the beginning of Thor Love and Thunder and drop him off somewhere out of fear of being replaced. Maybe after Thor and Guardians do a mission together, Peter leaves Thor behind because Thor's getting fit again and doesn't want to deal with that much hunk. It's a shame. I think Peter and Thor could be great friends, but I don't ever see Peter getting over how threatened he is by Thor, do you? One of the most interesting relationships from Black Panther happens between T'Challa and M'Baku. They started out as enemies, but T'Challa eventually found a way to work with M'Baku's tribe and unite them all under him. But a lot has changed since the Battle of Wakanda. And before I go further, I want to mention that this is operating under the assumption that they'll recast T'Challa for Black Panther 2 following Chadwick Boseman's tragic passing. Anyways, so T'Challa and his sister have been gone for 5 years after the dusting, forcing Wakanda to move on without them. Logically, M'Baku could be in charge, or just in a high position of power, and have brought Wakanda back after the devastating snap. Is M'Baku really going to be okay with T'Challa just sliding back into the role of king? I think it could create a difficult situation, forcing the two of them to reignite their feud. Overall, I think these two can work it out and get back to running Wakanda hand in hand, with T'Challa rightfully claiming his place as king. But it's just not going to be something M'Baku accepts without hesitation. I sense some friction in the future. You think whenever Falcon and Winter Soldier are bickering with each other about petty things like who ate all the leftovers in the fridge or whose turn it is to wash the dishes, Sam just pulls out the Cap shield and taunts it in front of Bucky's face? Yeah, I don't know how long this friendship between them can last, since they're always going to want to one-up each other. Sure, they have an upcoming show with their names in the title, which seems to suggest a reliable partnership, but long-term, I think these two will have to go their separate ways, or they might eventually wind up fighting each other. There's just too much pride regarding who is Cap's best sidekick to ever allow a long-term, healthy friendship between the two. Fine, maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, and they'll be mature adults about everything, but still, I don't think their friendship will last forever. Bucky might very well form his own team while Sam operates as Captain America for the government, distancing the two from one another. So let's see what happens.
I hate you.
One of the most underrated friendships in the MCU is Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch. In Avengers Age of Ultron, you know, back when Scarlet Witch talked with an accent, it was Hawkeye who finally convinced her to stand up, join the Avengers, and fight Ultron. The two share a pretty special relationship, so much so that it made complete sense that Hawkeye would be the one tasked to get Wanda from Vision at the safe house in Civil War, and Wanda was willing to choose Hawkeye over Vision in their fight. Now, I'm not saying anything bad is going to happen to these two to make them enemies, but I'm saying their friendship is going to end. They just don't run in the same circles anymore. Hawkeye is going to be busy never letting his wife and children go again while simultaneously training a new protege to take over the Hawkeye mantle, while Wanda will be off exploring the multiverse. It's a shame that these two won't interact very much going forward because their friendship had a lot of potential. What happens when one of the strongest Avengers teams up with Mr. Bow and Arrow? Imagine the possibilities.
Get help! Help him!
Thor and Loki were just becoming close brothers and even friends by the time the credits rolled in Thor Ragnarok. Of course, things immediately went south when Thanos arrived and choked the life out of our favorite trickster. Major bummer. But Loki isn't exactly gone anymore. We have another Loki running around in a different timeline. But it's a still evil Loki and not reformed Loki. Now, the chance to reunite this version of Loki with Thor is just too good to pass up. But it means their relationship is going to be drastically different, and Thor is going to have to work a lot harder to win Loki back over to the side of good. Just as long as Loki doesn't turn into a snake again, maybe it's fine. Is Professor Hulk too good to be true? Sure, it's funny watching Banner and Hulk's body, but that seems like a real cheap resolution to Banner and Hulk's character arc across the franchise. Because think about it. It's been clearly established that Hulk and Banner are two separate personas and personalities. So why was the Hulk persona okay with being wiped out completely and erased, seemingly forever? That sounds like shenanigans if I do say so myself. So it would make sense if the Hulk persona was able to break free and take over again, ruining the partnership that Professor Hulk brings to the table. That would actually be a great way to go because it allows for more interesting Hulk stories in the future, which I'm sure we can all agree is what we all want, right?
Yes.
What friendships and teams do you think are most in trouble?
Alright, that's gonna be the end of the video, y'all. All y'all have a blessed day. It's Brad King Production.